Hello, everybody. I'm Mimi Cowens, co-founder of the Black MS Narrative Project.
And I'm Victoria Campbell, co-founder of the Black MS Narrative Project. And today we're going to talk about traveling while you are fighting and battling this thing called MS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we know that it's travel season. It's getting warm outside. The kids are getting out of school. Some people probably already starting to travel for spring break. It
Mm-hmm.
is that season. And so today we're going to bring a guest that we have. Her name is Eve Clark. She is such a wonderful, wonderful wealth of information and inspiration. And we can't wait to bring her on. But
Absolutely. She
yeah.
is amazing. I can't wait for you
Mhm.
guys to meet her. But I'll tell you, as we navigate this thing called MS, okay, the warmer weather is not our friend. It's not our friend. And, overheating is a real thing when it comes to us. I
Mhm.
can't wait for you all to talk to Eve. She is one of the moderators of the Black MS Experience. And she has been traveling. I mean, like traveling as a
Like,
lifestyle for
mhm.
like almost 20 something years. So she's going to come on and tell us her story. But first, girl, where you going this summer? You got
Girl,
anything
listen,
planned?
we were just invited to a wedding in Cancun, and I've never been to Mexico. With my husband being military, we used to travel all the time, but not much since Landman was born. And so I'm really excited to hear some of the tips that Eve has to share with us.
Landman.
Langston, we call him
That's his
Landman.
nickname, Landman. I love it. Did he nickname himself?
No, we call him Landman, and he's so cute.
A lot of times kids come up with those nicknames for themselves and it just sticks.
You're
But
right.
yeah, so Cancun, I will tell you, I've been to Mexico like 3 times. I
Okay.
really like Cancun. Cancun is cool, but it is hot there. So I don't know what month y'all are going in, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's a
Well,
beautiful place.
where you going?
I don't know. Okay, so check it. So my birthday is in August, and I told Bay to take me somewhere. I said, it
Okay.
surprised me. I don't know where we're going. I just told him my faves. So I love Vegas and I love
Okay.
Ocho Rios. And so I don't know. He might surprise me with a trip to one of those places.
Oh, you'll have to
But
keep us updated.
of course. And I mean, I'll probably do some little micro trips here and there. I might, the beach here in North Carolina is, I mean, soon as it starts to get a little hot and folks show a little bit of skin, the beaches here are crazy. And it's just a really cool, like one tank, trip, like weekend getaway. I'll probably do some of those, but
Mm,
yeah, I don't know where my travels will take me. But girl, we miss the memo about April though? Everybody I know is somewhere.
right. Just Jamaica.
Aruba.
Um, I wasn't ready.
I wasn't ready. They didn't tell us. They didn't tell us. So okay, let's go ahead and do our little human being check-in, honey. So before
Yeah.
we get started on the show, how are you doing today?
Oh, girl, it was a busy weekend. I did the Walk MS 2024 in Allentown, Pennsylvania. It
Hey.
was a beautiful day. Let me tell you, I've done 10 MS walks.
Mm,
Diagnosed 16 years ago, but I've only done 10. And I want to say 2 out of the 10 did the sun actually shine. Was it nice? Like the rest of the time it rained. So I was just grateful for beautiful weather. We had bubbles and music and we did our thing. So I'm grateful, but I'm still tired and sore from that. And we're
yeah.
not going to talk about the fact that I tripped and fell yesterday at my sister's house.
No. What you do to yourself?
Honestly, anyone could have tripped, but I decided to take the route that I needed to step over some cords. I don't
Oh,
know. I could have went the other way. I did not. But
you okay?
yeah, it could have been worse. I'm sore. Um
Mm-hmm.
on top of my soreness that's already there. So, but I'm resting. It's a rest day.
Well,
How
good.
are you? How are you doing today?
I don't know what this reemergence of winter. Uh, what it happened? I mean, we had like 80s the earlier part of last week. And then this past weekend was cold and rainy. And of course, I felt it in my body. Whenever it's
Mhm.
cold and rainy out, I'm a little more achy than normally I would be.
Mhm.
Today is a good day. I'm excited. The sun is shining. It is not warmer, but at least it's sunny. So no more rain.
It helps.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely helps. All right. Well, beautiful. We're gonna go ahead and bring on Miss Eve Clark, who hopefully will go ahead and do a human being check-in with us as well
Yay.
before we get started.
All right. Bring her to the stage, honey.
Oh, there she goes.
There she is. Hello, Eve. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Your mic is muted.
Woo, there we go.
There we go.
Hi. How are you
Hmm.
today? We do something called a human being check-in. So tell us how you're doing, how you feeling.
um, I am relaxed but stressed at the same time.
Hmm.
I have a lot of
Think
bells and whistles
through.
going off and a lot of things that I need to tighten up before I prepare to leave for the next 6 months or plus. So lots going on.
Wow, you about to leave for 6 months?
Maybe a little longer, but but at least six.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
Hmm.
well, we gave a little mini intro.
Oh,
Um,
Lord.
what you doing, Vic?
I'm just clicking stuff. I'm sorry.
Clicking stuff. Okay, so we gave a little bitty mini intro when we were just doing our chat before we brought you to the stage. But
Hmm.
this is a storytelling platform, so we're going to give you an opportunity to tell everyone who you are. And so we're just excited that you took time out of your busy schedule to be with us today,
Yeah.
and B, that you want to and are willing to share your amazing story with us. So tell us, who is Eve Clark?
Yes. And then hopefully after you tell us about yourself, you can give us some tips for the travels that you've been
I
doing.
can do that. So, like I said, my name is Eve Clark. I'm a wife, mama, and my special title, Nana. It's one of my favorite joys in life. Um, but I am a retired general contractor. I have had MS for 27 years, 27, almost 28 years now. Um, and boy, what a journey it has been on. So I lived in Chicago, born and raised in Chicago and the surrounding suburbs, moved to Texas after 30 years of living in Chicago, moved to Dallas and was there for around 20 years. And then I retired from sort of retired, a soft retirement from my construction company that I owned. And lived abroad. So I moved to Thailand, lived there for a few years, lived in Indonesia during COVID, got caught there and couldn't go back to Thailand. And then when we came back to America for a while, we've been helping take care of my 92-year-old mom, been helping my siblings with that in Chicago. And I've done that for the last 16 months, and it's time for me to hit the road again for my husband and I to embark on some more worldwide shenanigans that we like to
I
call them.
love it. Come on,
But,
worldwide shenanigans. Okay,
Yes.
but
but
before we get into like your travel life and what you do as a disabled diva who travels, okay, let's talk about your MS journey a little bit.
Mhm,
You say you were diagnosed at the age of 25, so that was what, 1996. You've
mhm,
been living and thriving with MS for 27 years. Tell
yeah.
us about your diagnosis journey because everybody has a different one.
So
Hmm.
for me, it was right after my 25th birthday. I had a knockdown blowout party with another one of my girlfriends. We used to be bartenders at the time. So,
Mm,
when it's time for the bartender birthday party, it's on and popping, right?
turn up.
No, we were definitely turned.
Okay.
And then the next day I had a little cold. Uh, I didn't feel quite right. Went to the doctor and they said,
Mm.
"Oh, you're allergic to all aerosol products. Come back tomorrow." And I came
Mm,
back the next day, and another doctor was there, and she was like, I don't know what he's talking about, but it's something wrong with you. You need to go to the hospital right now. I don't care what he tell you. Go to the hospital. In fact, if you can't drive yourself there, I'm gonna send one of these nurses to take you.
What were the symptoms you were having?
I've had pneumonia numerous times. In totality, I've had pneumonia about 27 times. So it was like a cold and a flu and a pneumonia and weakness in my extremities. And then my eyes, I had always had some kind of problem with my eyes that they could never quite figure out, which was odd because my daytime job, when I wasn't being a bartender, I'm a board certified optician. So, and even then they could never quite figure it out, but it seemed like everything somehow just stopped working in my body. And of course that doctor, he was on shenanigans with the, yes, take these inhalers and you're allergic to aerosol products. And that other doctor, she must have been like some kind of a resident maybe, or a second year, but she was behind him looking like, go, and when I got to the front desk, she had written me a note, right? They slid me a note talking about go right now. And sure enough, I went straight to the hospital, which wasn't very far from where I was at the time. And I was in the hospital for a month for them trying. And I eventually, had a bout of optic neuritis. The vision went. I had the feeling went in my legs and my extremities. So I got MRIs and a spinal tap, and that's how they finally diagnosed it. But it took, and one of the other reasons that they found it was because this particular hospital was the one that I had been going to as a child, right, into my teens. And so I had been going to the doctors all along, like it'd be numerous little things wrong with me.
Right.
And they would always just blow it off as it was something else, right? It was something else. But when they diagnosed me, they said, you have had this 10 years prior to us diagnosing you. When they looked at all of my records, and mind you, I'm just turned 25. Wow. So, but had I not been at that particular hospital, it probably would have been some time before they found it. But what happened, I was in what you would call a major exacerbation where my whole body had just basically shut down. And I didn't walk too much for about 2 years. Once I went down, it was downhill fast. But I say that also to say a few years later, I just got better. And I was very angry and depressed. The person who told me I had MS did not have a good bedside manner. They were like, you're going to be a cripple for the rest of your life. Take one of these 3 shots. And that was it.
What shot was that?
It was at that time, it was Avonex, Betaseron, and Copaxone. Those were the 3 drugs, the ABCs. Right. And from that, I was very angry, upset. I had my life set up to do one thing at that time, and I could no longer do that one thing. And so now I have to figure out, well, what am I going to do? I'm a single mom, and, my son was set actually then. He was set to go stay with his father in California. And his stuff was packed. My stuff was packed. I was in transition, and I had moved out of my apartment. I just ended a relationship, had moved out of my apartment, moved with my brother, and said, oh, I'm going to just be here for a few months. Let me live my best life this summer with my son before he goes to California. And then I'm going to school. I'm going to move back to the city to further my optician license.
Okay.
And it just changed drastically, like overnight. And you know what, MS? You don't really look sick, right? It's not something you could necessarily see, right? So that caused a little tension there for a little bit. And my family, because I'm just out partying, and then all of a sudden I sort of can't walk. And you know how you can't walk, but you can't? It was one of those situations. I could walk, but I really couldn't walk. So everybody had to wrap their mind around that.
Right. And this is 96.
This is 96, before a whole lot of internet. Like, I don't own a computer. I don't own a real phone. I'm going to the library to do my research.
Wow.
I would drop my son off at school. When I told his father, well, he ain't coming because somebody got to hand me these pills in the morning, right? So he couldn't come. That caused tension, right? Um, and then it just took a while. And then that's a depressive state to be a young woman thinking that you have finally set your life up to what it's going to be, and it's not going to be that. And then looking for resources to help you understand that it is not actually a death sentence in that diagnosis, right? Which came from dealing with the Multiple Sclerosis Society and understanding how to navigate support groups and information.
And we talked about that, right,
Yeah.
Vic? Like in our last episode, we talked
Mhm.
about resources, and we named not only the MS Society, but also the Black MS Experience that you're a moderator of. And there are so many groups out there, but there aren't that many that specifically focus on African Americans. Do you think that in 96, when you were getting kind of like brushed off with your doctors, do you think that the care that you received as an African American was drastically different than those that don't look like you, and possibly getting to the diagnosis that you had?
Mhm.
Yes and no. At that time, I just feel I'm on Medicaid at the time. So the type of insurance that I was on, because there's definitely a disparity in types of healthcare you receive related to the type of insurance that you have, right? And even now, the MS specialist that I go to now is miles away from the MS specialist I went to for a decade, which was miles away from the MS specialist or the neurologist that I went to when I had to be on the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
The care I received that year was
Hmm.
way different than what I receive now, right? So it's the difference between smart water or great value water and Fiji water. Let's say I go to the
Mm.
Fiji water MS doctor now, but that great value water is going to quench the thirst. But it's nothing like a bottle of Fiji. So it's water. They're all neurologists, but they're a little different, right? So that's what I was experiencing. I've experienced all of that along the way. But the biggest change, not just in my doctors, was my attitude. My perception of having MS. Originally, it was all the things it had taken from me. But when I started seeing all the things that it had granted me the ability to do, my life changed because I was a single parent on the struggle bus working 2, sometimes 3 jobs, right? But now I can be on the PTA. Now I can go to all of his events. Now I'm there. Now I am helping other single mothers. I can pick your kid up, or they can come by my house after school, or I can be there to get them from soccer or from baseball or little league, right? So a different role, right?
Wow.
So now I can travel, right? I'm not, it's different. And I still was able to be in relationships. I still met somebody and got married after diagnoses, who I have since divorced and met somebody new. I'm on husband number 3. So still, there have been the major blessings in my life that I wouldn't have received had it not been for this disease. So when your attitude changes, your mindset change, and that had a big thing to do with how my health changed in my relationship with MS. Because like it or not, you have a relationship with this drug. I mean, with this disease. And so that's one of the things that I benefited from.
So now, did anything specific happen to that helped your mindset kind of do this switch from that depressive state you said you were in to now, listen, this is a gift in many ways as well?
It was definitely spending more time with my son.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the gift that just kept on giving. So in so many ways, I was able to spend so much more time with him and do so many more things with him that I was unable to do before.
So that was the shift that said, you know what, I am not going to just keep living like this. I'm not going to let the fact that I can't walk. You said the first 2 years after your diagnosis, you didn't even really walk well. And then you got better. Like when that happened, And I'm sure not being able to walk had you feeling like, oh my gosh, life is over. Then you begin to start feeling better. And then you say, you know what? I need to change my life for my child. And in essence, change my life for myself.
Yeah.
How did travel then become a way of life for you?
You know,
Travel into the story.
the first thing was actually our first trip to Paris that we took my son on when he was 16. Now, I had been the queen of doing road trips, but my love of international travel came when my sister was stationed in Italy. And I said, oh, we can come and see you by way of Paris. We can go to Paris and we could drive down to see you in Italy, which we did. But I was able to do that, one, albeit from having MS and having time on my hands to do some research, right? By now, you know, I got a computer at home, or I'm looking up things, or I'm saving money. I had even gone back to work by now because we're several years later. But I was like, oh, I can continue to do this. And it's a lot of places I like to go in terms of international travel are not necessarily handicap friendly. So my love of travel came from, let me go see everything I can now while I can still walk, or I can somewhat walk, because then that's why I do a lot more international travel than domestic. But I was like, let me go get out here and see these things. And I'm a builder by nature. So America is not old, right? But when you're in Egypt, that's old. Buildings in Italy, they are old, right? Buildings in China are old. So I like to see all of those things. And here's the one gift that travel gives you. When you're a sick individual, you're in the doctor's office, right? And a lot of them have what I call stock photos, right? And when you look up and see that picture of the Eiffel Tower or the Colosseum in Rome, I can remember that even though I'm in this doctor's office, I have been there, right? Or I could be wanting to be depressed about something going on with my disease, and something will flash up on the TV, some movie, right? It could be a movie. And I could say, oh, I have been in that place. Yeah. And then it immediately sparks joy in you. And at the most random times, but God gives you what you need when you need it. Right. And that's how travel became a major thing for me.
So travel helped you to heal.
Absolutely.
Were there any other things? Did you change your diet? What were some of the other lifestyle changes that you made to help you along your MS journey?
The biggest one, really, I gotta say, was my attitude. It was major, because stress can cause an exacerbation, right? So that was another change, was stress, right? So I have no problems cutting you out of my life. If you do not grant me stress-free interactions, you are not for me. You don't need to be my friend. I don't even care if you were a sibling or a relative. I don't need you in my life, because who's in that hospital bed hooked up to that Solumedrol? Now I'm finna gain another 10 or 20 pounds. That's me. Right. And unfortunately, with the way MS affects me and anger, I'm a Leo, right? So I'm a fire sign. So the way that stress and anger manifests in my body, I can't turn it off. So the way I have to make sure that I don't put myself in situations to where I cannot turn that anger off. Because one of the reasons I retired from construction, somebody cheated me out of a $300,000 contract. And within an hour, I couldn't see and couldn't walk. I spent a month in the hospital and 6 months in full-time rehab. And I said,
what's your birthday?
July 23rd.
So okay, no, I'm a Leo too. I'm a Leo too, August 6th. And so I can relate to that anger, and I can relate to when something happens to take you out of, if you right here and something happens to that switch, you are no longer.
So you know what I mean when I say that switch, once it goes, you can't pull it back in.
Yeah, but you know what? And that just goes to show the importance of knowing thyself and recognizing what's happening in your body. And when you can't understand it, figure it out.
It took a while to figure that out. Like MS and heat for people, you have to feel, it takes you a while to figure out, oh, wait, this is bad for me. I could be out in the heat and now I can't walk somewhere. So it's the same thing with anger and stress. So you have to do what you can to remove that from your existence because it's bad for you. Just like fried chicken is bad for your cholesterol. Too much of a bad thing is bad for you, and stress is that for me and my MS journey.
What are some anger management tips that you learned along the way to help?
The word no is a complete sentence.
Say it again.
The word no is a complete sentence.
It has a period at the end.
Yeah, it's very important. And even though you're related to me, you don't have to be related to me. I don't have to have you in my space.
I like that. She dropping gems, y'all.
Look, I'm about to just put this one up.
Put that on, honey. No, with a period. Honey.
Oh, I can spell.
P-E-N-C. Just put no dot.
I was supposed
no dot.
So you put boundaries up, and you put boundaries in place.
Absolutely.
To protect your peace.
Absolutely.
And you decided, you know what? I'm not about to let nobody steal my joy, because that's going to result in my health taking a turn. And so what advice do you have for people that are new in their MS journey, are getting tossed around from doctor to doctor, feeling like they're being discarded because they only have Medicare, or they only have Obamacare, or affordable care, and they're not getting access to care like they should, and they're feeling like, I mean, come on, like, treat me like a rich white woman with good insurance. Like, really,
doctors can be fired.
Huh?
Doctors can be fired. You know, they work for you. So, you know, interview a doctor, right? If they're not for you, if you think they're not listening to you, they probably aren't. Get another one. And then, unfortunately, for people that are in small towns, right? If you're a small town girl, it might not be an option for you. And then you have to stand your ground. Maybe you need an advocate to go in with you, right? If you don't think they're listening to you, maybe they're listening to your husband or your sister, or, you know, or your child, if you have an adult child, right? Or the MS Society can advocate for you. And don't be afraid to get in there and have your stuff written down. And if they're not listening to you, you need to move on to another individual.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really good.
So when it comes to your overall well-being, what I'm hearing you say is stress has got to go. And what better way to alleviate stress than to get on a plane, train, automobile? What Olita Adams said, I can railway.
All railway.
So you are a travel diva. Like, talk to us about, you've been to over 60 countries, right?
Yeah. Over 60 countries, and most of them I've been to multiple times.
Wow. So so you say you live a nomadic, you said when we were talking to you before that you live a nomadic lifestyle. So does that mean you don't have a house, or you just where you at, girl?
My husband likes to say that we live on Earth, and that's the hardest problem, is when people say, well, where do you live? I really don't live anywhere. Right? I don't have a mortgage or rent, or I don't have a car note, car insurance. I basically live out of a couple of suitcases. My son and my goddaughter allow me to be able to do things the way I do it because they keep certain things from me. Like I really only own about 6 totes of awards that I've had from my previous life when I worked. Some books I wanted to keep in my different wardrobes. So I keep some winter clothes in Chicago at my brother's house. I keep some of my summer clothes that need to be interchanged out at my son's, and my goddaughter keeps about 6 totes of my other clothes. And I pretty much, I don't like to be anywhere cold. Most places I go are warm, but I pretty much, everything is centered around a certain color palette, and that just makes it work. My clothes are all interchangeable. They're built to last, and it just works for us.
So I have a question, because what is it that, like, did you have this plan and then put it into action, or did it kind of fall into place as you?
That's a really good question. So remember I mentioned a little bit ago that I had a contract that fell through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I knew then that, okay, this construction life is probably not going to go the way I want it to. And I need to have a different life. So where can I live on this small amount of money? Because the retirement plan I thought I was going to build, I knew my days were numbered, right? In construction. And, as a general contractor, that in and of itself is stressful because you're responsible for everybody in the whole building. The carpenter, the electrician, the floor people, the painter, all their problems and their employees' problems are your problems, right? So I said, I need to look at something different. And if this is the least amount of money that I'm ever going to have per month, where can my husband and I go to live on this number? And that became abroad. Like if I could live in Costa Rica, Panama, Belize, or Mexico for that number. So I was like, that's where it is. I did a little bit more research and saw that Costa Rica was the number 2 place in the world to get treatment for multiple sclerosis. And so I was like, okay, so I had a 6-year plan. Yeah, I had a 6-year plan to phase down my business and to make it so I didn't have to be on site for projects that people wanted me more than they needed my whole entourage, my whole business. So I could do more project management work, albeit though still through construction. So that plan took some time. And then just as I was getting close to the date that it was time to go, some friends that I knew did what they called a remote work year, where they lived in 4 different countries during the course of the year, 3 months in each country. And I said, oh, I could probably do that too before I go to Costa Rica. And that's how I ended up in Thailand. I said, okay, I will stay there for a year, get a house, and that'll be my jump off point so I can explore all of Asia while I'm there. And I did that. Me and my husband, we packed 8 bags, right? We had 2 carry-ons apiece, and we had 2 big suitcases apiece, and another little tote bag. And so we went with that, and that's what we lived out of for all that time. But guess what happened?
What happened?
COVID.
Right.
Oh, God.
So we happened to leave Thailand because I also am blessed and fortunate to have a lung disease called bronchiectasis, in addition to multiple sclerosis. And in Thailand, they burn the forest for some of the time, and they have the number 1 worst air quality in the world. So it's only for like a month. So I was like, oh, during that month, I'll just leave and come back. Well, this is right when COVID struck.
You ain't going nowhere.
Nowhere. So they canceled. I was going to a party in Australia. They canceled the party. And then I like to go to Dinner en Blanc. It's a white party around the world. Yeah. So I had already been to one in Sydney, but I was going to one in Perth. It's on the other side of Australia. They canceled that. I had a ticket to Malaysia. They canceled my flight to Malaysia. So I was like, I also had flights to Sri Lanka and Bali. And I said, well, I don't want to get caught in Sri Lanka if anything's going to happen. Let me go to Bali because I know a few people there. And sure enough, we got there and the world just shut down right when we got there.
Yes, it did.
And we just ended up staying there, living in a resort for like a year and a half.
My God. Your life is fascinating.
Yes. And I wanted to ask just now in all of this travel, you starting to realize that this is what you want to do in your relationship with MS. And now you have this relationship with your husband. Was there any anxiety or I guess just feelings of I'm trying to think of
reservation?
Yes. Yeah. As you were making these moves.
No, absolutely not. My husband is my ride or die. So he look, from blue jeans, for me being in blue jeans to ball gowns, he right there with me. So he in his jeans or he in his tuxedo, like whatever it calls for, he in it to win it. So, he doesn't work
rent one of them.
He works with me.
Wow.
It just, our relationship just works. And even with the traveling part of it, he was all down for it. Like, let's go. And with my battle with MS, I've always been one to be an advocate for myself and to speak up for the doctor. So I just worked my plan and worked them into the plan of me leaving.
So what type of MS do you have? Are you relapsing remitting?
Yes.
Okay, you're still at relapsing remitting.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's amazing. So are you on any DMTs to kind of slow the progression?
Now I'm on Vumerity. but over the years, I have probably been on almost everything. So
Okay.
Well,
almost all the ABC drugs, all the shots, some infusions. I think Tisabri, I was on that for a while. I've been
I'm
on
on that one.
Tecfidera,
Yeah.
and now I'm on Vumerity.
So, but okay, but that's okay, right? I mean, because whatever it is that you need to do to slow the progression of this progressive nerve disease, do it. And when one disease modifying therapy stops working, go to the next one and then
Yeah.
work with what works for you. So that's
Mhm.
amazing that you're still at relapsing remitting after 27 years and it has not
Yeah.
progressed. That's awesome.
And even in terms of medicine, I'm able to get it. We call it my underground railroad of drug mules that bring me my meds all over the world. So
Wow.
my medicine goes to my son, and he will meet people outside the airport, hand them a package from me, and they'll bring it to me, whether I'm in Egypt or Dubai, or it don't matter. Somebody will bring it to me and drop it off. So.
I love it.
That is great.
I love it.
They bring grits too, so it don't be just medicine. I've been eating grits,
Oh,
my seasonings. They'll bring it to me.
Great.
Seasonings? I cannot. So you cooking wherever you go, you cooking too.
Oh yeah, in Thailand when we lived there, we had a whole house. So I had a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. I would cook, order groceries. We cooked everywhere except when we lived in Indonesia because we lived in a resort. So
Right.
Mm.
So now
So-
with your travel, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Mimi.
baby. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So with your travels, you did say that it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. That there were a few times when you were hospitalized while
Yeah.
in another country.
Thailand and I've been hospitalized in Thailand and in Indonesia, both of those places.
And what was that like for you?
I speak. The funny thing is, it's never MS that does it to me. It's MS's party favor. Like, the things that like to hang around MS, right? So like I've had our immune system is compromised. So I catch pneumonia a lot, right? So my lung disease, right? It likes to come to the party a lot of times. And then MS will say, oh, well, since they're here I come, right? And then I'll need something or, it's but I'm able to handle it. I don't panic because everybody in the world getting hospital treatment for something. There's a hospital there. So you go in there, tell them what's wrong with you, and then they treat you.
So what are the things that you're doing on a daily basis to stay healthy?
I try to do as little as possible.
You said what?
I try to do as little as possible.
Okay.
Possible, but even though I am sort of retired, I do still do work. Like you mentioned, I'm a moderator in that MS group. I have some friends that have nonprofits. I do some work for their boards, and I'm still do some construction work here and there. I do some PM work for some people, so I do stay busy, even though I try not to work. And then I run a travel company too.
Well, that's awesome. I was more so leaning toward physical things that you do. Like, do you do yoga, meditation? Do you stretch every day?
Meditation is a big deal because I also suffer with these raggedy migraines. And so meditation is a big part of that. Stretching is a big part of that. And then just trying to stay active. And for me, mainly that might be walking, right? So, with MS, since we are all affected in so many different ways, like whenever I'm in physical therapy, they're always at a loss because sometimes the more you do with a person for MS, you end up harming them. Sometimes because too much will lay me out for a day because I did too much exercise. And so it's always finding what that happy medium.
The happy medium, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something my cardiologist can't get through his brain. He's like, walk 10,000 steps. I'm like, you want me to be in bed for 5 days.
Right.
If I give you a good 3,000, that's what you're getting that day.
Right.
Exactly.
And take that.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to hear some travel tips. Like, what are some of the things that you recommend? Like, if you have MS and you are getting ready to embark on travel, all right, whether it be domestic or international, talk to us about some of the tips that you recommend for folks that are dealing with MS.
Well, when they're going to start off, I like to tell them trust but verify. when you are about to fly, or you are booking an Airbnb, or you are booking a hotel room, depending on your level of need, whether you're walking by cane, walker, wheelchair, or scooter, make sure that whatever you booked has the level of accessibility that you need. Don't just rely on what they necessarily told you. Check it out. That means if you got to make a phone call to verify that your wheelchair is going to fit through that door, or do they have a step-in shower, or do they have what you saw in the picture? Or I was in Vietnam once, and it turned out the entry into the hotel was like up 20 stairs. And then you couldn't even hold on to the banister if I wanted to go up the stairs, because they had all these pots lining up, with flowers. It looked cute, but it wasn't practical. So I ended up entering the hotel through the garage and up the employee service elevator.
Wow. And
That's
those
great.
are really good things to know. Like, and a lot of times you don't even know till you get on the scene.
Yeah,
What
it's
you're
just a
gonna
little thing that you thinking, do they have an elevator? You have to. One time, me and my husband were somewhere in France, and we weren't in Paris. We were outside of Paris, about close to Normandy. And the hotel didn't have an elevator, and our room was on the second floor. And we arrived at about 10 o'clock at night, and they didn't have any first floor rooms. So we had to leave all our luggage in the car, just take out what we needed for that night. Now, I am mobile, right? I do have mobility, so I can walk up them stairs, but it was
take a lot
still,
out of you.
yeah, it was still an inconvenience. So it still happens,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to know your physical needs, what you can do. So make sure you trust but verify. Just call and check.
I love
And
that.
you
Research.
mentioned also that you really need to have a medical plan, right? When you're traveling.
For me, depending on how long I'm going to be gone, I want to make sure that if I'm going to be gone for 6 months, I either have 6 months of medicine on me, or I have made a plan to get my medicine 3 months, through. Somebody's going to bring it to me. If it's just a week trip, making sure I take everything I need with me and involving my doctors in that care plan. Because if you are going to be gone for 6 months, you can get what's called a medical insurance waiver, and you can actually take 6 months of meds. They will give it to you, and you can take it with you. So it's just knowing that. And the same thing at the airport, making sure that I have contacted that airline. I've added that I need wheelchair assistance on to my reservation on my ticket, telling them at the counter when I check in, telling them again when I get to the gate, and telling them when I get on the plane. And yes, you have to tell all those people, because at some point somebody will not do their job, and the wheelchair you thought you needed will not be.
Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm.
That is great. And don't be afraid to say it.
Oh no! For some people, like I walk around all the time, but after I fly for a while, my legs don't work, so they need to wake up. They're either numb or they're in pain. They're very weakened. Airports are huge, so I wouldn't be able to walk. And then I know they like to say this for people that are on Southwest Airlines, because of the way they board. A lot of people use wheelchair services just to board early to get the seat they want. And then when they get off the plane, they have magically been cured by what I like to call jet bridge Jesus. I have never been cured by jet bridge Jesus, so I need them to have my wheelchair waiting for me when I get off that Southwest.
Jet bridge Jesus, I love it.
Think about it. Look at it the next time you fly Southwest.
I will.
How many people needed it to get on? And how many
people
needed it to get off?
Magically don't need it to get off. So then that takes us to, like, when you're traveling, whether you're traveling solo or you're traveling in a group, it's still good to like really have some emergency contacts on deck and make sure everybody knows where you are, right?
Yeah, so if you're traveling internationally, know how to call 911 or know how to call the ambulance or know how to call back to your hotel for assistance. And even if you're traveling domestically, right? Just be aware of where the medical facilities are that you might need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's huge, because you never know. That's what an emergency is. It's unplanned, but if you're prepared, like you're saying, is the most important thing here. Then you don't have that anxiety can now not be part of your mental capacity.
Yeah, because when you're in it, right? then you'll, oh my God, where's this number? And 911 doesn't work everywhere, right? And what if you don't have cell service? What if you had to use the real phone, right? At the hospital to dial. It's just a matter of just having it available before you leave, because it'll take that pressure off of you or your travel companion who happens to be with you in the heat of the moment.
Yes.
And so you also say you want to make sure that your medicines are written down, and if you're going to a foreign country, that they're translated in that language.
Absolutely, because okay, another thing is, let's say anything happened with your meds. One, most pharmacies outside of the DMT drugs, you can get almost anything. Just walk in the door and get it at a pharmacy. Almost every drug you need a prescription for now. In other countries, you can just get it over the counter. But also understand maybe translating that medicine into that language, if you could, or if you needed to. I think all of that makes just a little bit of difference. I'll tell you, and then in relation to that, well, I was leaving out of Jordan one time, and they took all of my medication bottles, and they didn't speak English. It was like their version of TSA. They made me act out what each and every one of those drugs were. And then they were like, and how old are you? I'm like, I'm 40, whatever I was, 45. But what difference does it make? These are all my meds, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, having them properly labeled. You know, you can't. I use a med minder for the week, but when you're going through security, you want to make sure you got everything in the bottle it's supposed to be in.
So basically, that's medication management.
Yeah,
right. It's medication management and making sure that you have your meds. They're in that language that you should be prepared to act out what they do.
That was hilarious, girl.
But be prepared for anything.
Well, just being aware, and not just your regular meds, any supporting meds you might need. I mean, MS comes with a myriad of other problems, right? And it's different for everybody. And your timeline to fix something, what happens to me is like a chain reaction, right? A migraine can spin into other stuff, right? That wakes up MS, and now you causing other problems, right? A cold, right? The flu, they can all spin into other things that exacerbate your condition. So make sure you have whatever you need in an emergency situation. In addition to your daily meds, you might have your vitamins handy, have your other pain medicine handy. If you know you prone to like dairy and dairy don't like you, make sure you got some Imodium with you. You know, just things like that. You getting colds all the time, have your Dayquil, your NyQuil, and your vitamin C. Just think of the things that you want to have as much fun as you can. And when you need something in a hurry and it's not there, that causes what? Stress, which further exacerbates the situation.
Right. That's so, I love how you're talking about this management and preparing. I was sharing with Mimi that I feel like having MS a lot of times is like planning for a baby. Because before you leave the house, you have that baby's bottles, the Pampers, the extra outfit, the toys, the Bobos, all of those things. And here we are with MS. Right, all the things. And that's the same thing with MS, right? Like we're basically planning for
absolutely
everything.
Because lack of planning causes more stress, which exacerbates whatever situation you are having from your MS.
And let's say you're preparing for a trip and some of this stuff starts to bubble up before you get ready to go. That's why travel insurance is
oh
key.
Absolutely. Travel insurance and understanding travel insurance is a big deal.
Okay,
so
break it down.
You have to where you're going, right? Understand where you're going and what you're doing, and understand the definitions surrounding travel insurance. Everybody sees when you're booking a flight, it'll come up that there's a little do you want to buy this insurance for $42? But it really only covers the flight itself. But what about your hotel, your activities, and everything else you've paid for? And what about when you don't even make it on the flight, right? Because MS creeped up. So you might need a standalone travel insurance policy, whether you get an annual policy or just one for your vacation. But read the fine print. Know if you plan on riding ATV, skydiving, or whatever, make sure that's included in there or riding a motorbike, a moped, those are exclusions from most policies. Understand the difference between secondary and primary. So I have secondary coverage sometimes, but I also got a credit card that's free enough that when I go to the hospital and show up, I can pay them and then I will get reimbursed. If it's the primary insurance, that policy will cost you a little bit more on the front end. But if you get hurt in Thailand somewhere, they are going to pay up front and get reimbursed later. Also, a lot of these Medicare plans also have, because a lot of people with MS are also on Medicare. Your Medicare Advantage plan, mine, has additional worldwide hospitalization coverage. So there's just little things to know. My travel insurance will fly somebody in to sit with me in the hospital if they're not already there. Or if I said I'm not well enough, it'll fly me all the way back to America. So you want to make sure you're looking for these little bitty things in the coverage and pre-existing conditions. So you want to make sure you check out the language on pre-existing conditions, because if you don't buy it in the proper manner and you have an exacerbation while you in Cancun or Tahiti, they might not cover you.
So it's just doing the research. So your travel partners could be flown to you.
Absolutely.
Having a problem. That's why it's important to really be able to, have your travel partners, like your list of who it is that you're going to take with you, and also know where you're going, right?
Yeah, the person back home, if you were on a solo trip, it's just knowing who has a copy of your travel insurance. What I like to tell people, if you're a solo traveler, have a red envelope in your luggage that you leave open. So let's say something happened to you and the hotel, you can't talk. The hotel would be able to open that and they would know how to call your mama or your spouse. If you're alone, they'll know your travel insurance. You see what, because accidents happen at any given time, right? What if you and your travel partner are injured? Who back home is going to know, one, where was your car parked at the airport? All of that information should be sent to someone that's not with you so they know what to do. And certain travel insurance policies will pay for somebody. They will fly them into you if you are injured in such a way that you can't leave right away and you have to be in the hospital. And all of those policies can range from $50 to $900, right? They're not very expensive sometimes.
So but worth it. Definitely taking a lot of giving a lot of peace of mind and taking a lot of pressure off of the fact that
the time I was hospitalized in Thailand, I was there for a week. I think my bill was $1,200 and I got all that money back from my insurance companies. Same thing in Indonesia. I was hospitalized. I think it was $1,500 for a week and I got all my money back.
You make it sound like it's so easy. You make traveling to all of these remote places that are on the opposite side of the world, like Australia, you make it sound so easy.
It is. Little research, it is. And it's affordable. It's affordable. Like right now, they got tickets to Paris on sale from Dallas for $500 round trip. Travel is affordable. With just a little bit of research, you can go to Dubai for $6.99 airfare and hotel, right? On gate one, you could put $150 down and pay it out. So there are ways to travel even on a limited budget and still have a good time.
And so you had mentioned earlier that it's important to really have a good relationship with your doctors.
Yes.
And to make sure that they know where you're going as well, in addition to your travel partners. So you definitely want to talk to your doctors before you leave the country or go anywhere for that matter.
Yes, because they make sure I get the right testing done before I go. Like I just got my all clear. But even my husband, he's a 2-time cancer survivor. They have given us, if we're not around, they have sent him his blood work, his lab work. We've gotten the labs done someplace else and then did a telehealth visit with them. So, and to get his all clear or to let us know, you better come back or you can't go yet. Or, just being, we make sure all our providers know this is our way of life. We come back to get our checkups but we are going to leave. So, you know, and then they clear us. They tell us what we need to do to be able to leave, what we should do while we're gone. And it's a good relationship to have with them.
So what's your little kit look like?
That's
Like, you know,
outstanding.
when you go somewhere and you're like, okay, this is it's gonna be hot here. I need this kit, I need this in this bag. Like Victoria said, I need my little baby diaper bag. What's my
Yeah, with your heat and travel. Yeah.
travel kit look like?
You know, it depending on where I'm going, there's a one for the plane, one for the car, or there's one, you know, for the activities that I'm going to do. So on the plane, that might look like I wear an air purifier, a personalized air purifier, because COVID's still out there, but not just COVID. Remember they buddies, the flu and pneumonia, they out there too, right? So I wear my air purifier around my neck. Heat is a bad thing for us, so fans. I got a little small fan that I keep, and then I have another fan that I can wear around my neck that shoots out water to cool me down. That makes a difference. I have cooling wristbands that I use, wide brim hats with UV protection, all the things that I need to make sure that I can enjoy where I'm at for as long as possible without getting sick.
Oh my goodness.
And compression socks. You know, I wear compression socks on any flight longer than 3 hours.
Oh yeah, that's smart.
Okay.
Gotta do that. Yeah, I do that too.
I do that with in the car too.
Car too. It's important in the car as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like a good road trip too. Now, yes, I like to travel internationally, but me and my husband will drive from Dallas to Jacksonville, Florida, from Florida all the way back up to DC, and from DC back to Dallas. So we love a good road trip too.
Well, when you come to road, where are you right now?
I'm in Houston right now for one more day.
Okay, so when your travels bring you to North Carolina, you better let me know.
They do sometimes. One of my business partners and one of my best friends. So I travel to Charlotte and to Raleigh. So I do frequent North Carolina sometimes.
Well, you are also, in addition to being a world traveler, you have a traveling business. And so how can people get in touch with you when they want to plan their next excursion?
So my travel business is called Stokes World Travel. That's my travel business. Me and my sister-in-law plan group trips to different places. So the one I'm leaving next week to go to Morocco, that's a group trip that we're going to host there. Last year we had a group trip where we took them to Egypt, Dubai, and Rwanda last year. And then, hey, for us Chicagoans, the Bears are about to play in London. So we're going to host a group trip for the Bears to play in London in October. I'm just waiting for the date of the game to get announced in a couple of weeks.
The Bears.
And then sometimes we just plan a big trip for other people. I've planned a few trips to Rwanda for some folks when we weren't there. And Egypt, I planned trips for people to go to Egypt and us not being there.
Wow. Well, I'm blown away. Victoria, I am blown away.
But you know what? I'm so inspired because I love to travel, and I mentioned that we used to travel all the time, and then when my second child was born, Langston, we stopped, and things got harder, and my MS progressed, and my legs got weaker, and things changed. But I think talking with you, I'm so inspired and encouraged that it's still accessible. It's still a possibility. There's just a lot more planning that I need to do ahead of time. There's a lot more packing that I need to do but it's okay, because what's important is that I get to do what I want to do, and that's to be fill in the blank, right? Wherever that is in the world.
And I use different things. I'm mobile, but I use a cane, walker, a wheelchair, or a scooter. Whatever I need to get it done to go on that trip, that's what I use.
Yeah. Never. What's the phrase I'm thinking of? I can't think of it. Never let it hold you back.
No, I never let anything hold me back from what I want to do. If I want to do it, I'm going to find a way to accomplish it. And even when I think we were on a cruise down the Nile in Egypt, and I had to spend a whole day in bed. But could I be upset? I'm in Egypt on a cruise on the Nile. Right. So what? I'm in bed. It don't matter. I still got the windows open and I'm looking, to me, it doesn't matter. I'm still enjoying myself wherever I go. despite anything that's wrong with me, I still made it there, right?
Well,
Yeah.
you know what, Eve has really, the whole reason that we created the Black MS Narrative Project is because we, us, us melanated folk, we have a wealth of just gems inside of us that are
Mm-hmm.
unique to our experience. And I must say, I've never met anyone like you in my entire life. And you have been so inspiring and healing to me. You've given me some things to think about, to where after this episode airs, I'm going to go back and I'm going to re-listen to this, because you dropped so many gems. They was falling so hard, I couldn't even like process them. But I am so thankful that you joined us today on our
Absolutely.
show. And in fact, you're our first guest.
Oh, thank you for having
You're
me.
our
Oh,
first
of
guest.
course.
Thank you for christening the Black MS Narrative Project and blessing us with your presence on today. Do you have any closing words as we get ready
You
to
know,
come?
I just want to know one. On my website, I do have some tips for how to travel, right? Things that I use as an MS traveler, what to think about. I also have some resources for travel insurance on there as well, for them to things to look for when they're looking for a travel insurance policy. So they can look at a couple of blogs that I have on my website, and that'll give them some additional information. I do have a couple of videos on my YouTube channel, but let me tell you, I'm just lazy. Folks be like, please put it on the video. I'm like, look, but do you know? Okay, tech support, right? Tech issue. Like, yeah, no, I don't want to. I don't want to. Like, if I can come on there and talk live, I got you all day long. I'm not trying to edit no video. Yeah, I just don't have the time for that.
Well,
Maybe
listen,
if I sit down and sit still one day, there'd be a whole lot more of that. But for now, they can enjoy the travel tips that I post on my website and on my Instagram. There's a section just called tips on my Instagram. There's blogs on my website that will give them some more information. And for those that are in the Facebook group, there's all kind of tips in the MS Black experience, because even though they sometimes have been saying for years there is no difference in care for people of color with MS, the
that's
MS
not
Society
true.
has now embraced the fact that
Mhm.
yes, indeed, there
Yeah,
is a little disparity in
yeah,
how we are treated as opposed to non
absolutely.
people of
Mhm.
color. And they, you know,
Absolutely.
at least we're
Mhm.
finally being heard.
Oh, what a great way to end the show.
Mhm.
Great way to end the show. And hopefully, because see, I'm gonna tell you something. That one right there, I don't know how your screen is set up. Okay, that one right there. That one, that Victoria right there. If it had not been for her and her tech savviness, child, well, I don't know where we would be. So I get you on the tech savvy, but hopefully we've inspired you to become more tech savvy
I'm getting there.
as,
I'm
as
getting
as
there.
we go
But
on
no
with this
stress, right?
journey.
That's the
But no
thing.
stress, no
No
stress.
stress.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today on this episode of the Black MS Narrative Project. And if you like what you're seeing, or hey, I don't care if you like it or not, like, share, subscribe, tell everybody that you know about the Black MS Narrative Project.
Yes, and share
Follow us
these
on
beautiful
YouTube,
tips that
everywhere.
Eve shared with us, because it's this we want it all to be accessible to everyone. And these are some ways.
That's right. All right, y'all. Let's hear.